I'm Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact focused on personal growth, my Knowledge Workbook series and Creative Healing course can help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about the future with an avoidant partner. If you want to be in a relationship with somebody who is more avoidant, you have to understand that they have different struggles than other people do. Whether or not you decide to be with somebody who is avoidant is your own choice, and you have to consider all the challenges that are going to come with that person. Because let's face it, if you're going to date an avoidant, they often shut down, they often run away, they don't usually communicate as well as many other partners do. So you want to consider the things and the challenges that you're going to have with this person if you're going to be with them. You know, some people will say, don't date an avoidant. Okay, well, you can date whoever you want. But if you date an anxious person, you're going to see struggles with them too. And if you think you're going to date a secure person, then you better be secure. And many of you think you're a lot more secure than you really are. And that's not to hurt your feelings, but when there's really pressure put on you, that's when you can see what you're made of, okay? Somebody's pulling away, or somebody is needing to communicate, or somebody's losing their patience, right? So there are a lot of different ways we can assess how secure we really are. But if you do want to date an avoidant, you have to understand what's likely going to happen, where you're going to struggle, because if you're not prepared for that, it will just lead to arguing. There will be, loss of connection, and it usually winds up in a breakup eventually. One of the big things about an avoidant is they really don't like demands being put on them. This is an early developmental arrest, and it has to do with what happened in the first couple of years of their life. Now, I talk more about stuff like this in the Creative Healing course where we got really deep. But you have to understand, this is because of the trauma they had when they were, in those first few years of life. Okay, ultimately, it's not fair that it happened to them, and of course, they have to deal with these things, but because their experiences with trust and counting on people and talking about things has been so poor their entire life, they're a lot more reluctant to do these things. But if you're going to picture your ex coming back if they were an avoidant and what life is going to be like, you got to realize that there's going to be a lot of times where they pull away. And you are going to have to consistently maintain emotional self-control. Is that fair? Probably not. But again, like I'm saying, if you're going to choose to be with an avoidant, then you know that they're going to struggle in certain areas. So in my opinion, it's better to be proactive about dealing with things and knowing that person. That way you're less likely to blow up at them if they do something that triggers you. You're likely going to feel like you're walking on eggshells with an avoidant. Okay, you're going to have to keep things to yourself a lot of times. You're going to have to keep things bottled up because you're thinking, well, if I say this to them, they're going to run away. And they could run away. It's a very real fear. So, yeah, you have to consider these challenges. Do you want to really be with somebody like that? That's a personal decision. That'd be like me telling you how hungry you are. I can't know how hungry you are or what's going to make you happy or fulfill you. You know yourself, and you know this person, this avoidant that you're wanting back in your life. But you can make it work with an avoidant. You might have to sacrifice some of your needs being met by that person, but you could also look at other areas or other people to get those needs met, where you don't necessarily have to put all those demands on one particular person. You can find more of a balance. if you want to stay with an avoidant and there's somebody that you really love, that you want to be with, and that is the person you're trying to work it out with, then you might as well do what you can to minimize the problem areas. And yeah, it is a bit like walking on eggshells. And ideally, I would love for them to get into therapy and work on those issues, but not all of them will. And some of you want to know what to do even if they don't want therapy, okay? So today I have an email coaching that I wanted to get into, and let's call this guy Earl. Now, Earl met his girlfriend actually on Valentine's Day, and they met on a dating app, and they dated about 5 months. Now, this is the interesting thing. What I've seen in the last few years is that people are actually starting to know about attachment theory. When I launched the channel, nobody was talking about attachment theory. No dating coaches were talking about it. No breakup coaches were talking about it. You could go back and look for yourself. This is something that Margaret and I put together for years. And now a lot of therapists started talking about it more, and so now it's out there. Be careful where you get your information from, guys. You want to look for people that are trained, like clinicians, people that have an education that really learn about this stuff, not something that's regurgitated and, sounding like some celebrity that it's not the celebrity, okay? Jordan Peterson is not talking about avoidant attachment style, okay? And even if he was, that's not something he specializes in, okay? That's what we do here at the channel. You have 3 therapists on this channel that specialize on it, that they talk about it, they live for it, they deal with it every single day. You want to think about it like this. Would you rather go to a general surgeon to get a heart procedure, or would you rather go to the doctor or the surgeon who constantly performs the heart procedure? Obviously, you want the specialist, okay? And that is what we do here. We are specialists with attachment theory, mental health, breakups, relationships. So I'd be very careful, even if a celebrity who's talking about it, has a video on it, they probably don't specialize it, and so they tend to kind of say things that may not be as accurate. So always just be careful where you get your info from, okay? So the interesting thing that I was getting to, that I kind of got off my tangent, sorry about that, is that this woman told him she has an avoidant attachment style, that she sabotages relationships, and she had a tough childhood. So she knows this about herself, but will she do something different? That's a whole nother story. So you want to be careful when somebody tells you this. It's hard because you like the person and you think, oh, they're treating me so great and so wonderful. How could this ever be a problem? Until you start to see the issues really come out, which eventually does happen. So they sabotage relationships, right? So what does that mean? They get too close. They push people away. Maybe they lie. Maybe they cheat. Maybe they cancel dates. Could be a lot of different things, but and it could come out in a lot of different ways. So don't get so excited about somebody when they're telling you this. Her mother was neglectful. Her father left and later passed away. She valued independence, avoided help, and said her past relationships were either toxic or purely physical. Somebody told me all of this up front. My mindset would be like, sure, we can hang out and have a good time and have fun and see how it goes, but I'm not going to get attached to anybody that is telling me this severe, okay? This is not slightly avoidant. This is, hold on, she dealt with a lot of neglect. She won't get help for herself. That's another big issue. So that means she's not going to get therapy, or if she goes, she'll do one session and then she'll say how awful the therapist is, and that's why they're never going back. And then they blame you for the therapist. I literally had somebody had that happen to him yesterday. Spent months researching a great therapist. They went one time and then said, no, it was awful. I can't believe you made me go there. All right. So with me, she opened up quickly. Okay, so now you're excited because she's opened up quickly to you. You have to understand that when avoidants do this, yes, they open up quickly because now there is no responsibility, there's no obligations, there's no demands in the beginning. But as soon as you put them on them, that is when the problems are going to come out. That is the future you're going to see with them. On our first date, she said she felt comfortable. She was attending trance-based therapy and shared vulnerabilities that she had never shared this early before. And that could have been because she was in some therapy, bringing up some memories, and oh, look, you just happen to be the person I'm dating, so I'm going to share all these things for you. Now, with trance-based therapy, you want to make sure the therapist is going to talk about those issues. They're not going to just bring them up and not deal with them. A good therapist that's going to deal with stuff like this is going to talk to you about those memories and make sure that you're okay. If they're just bringing them up, that's not good. Okay, he says, I have an anxious attachment style. I was loving, patient, supportive. I gave her compliments, brought flowers, picked her up from work, and stayed over almost every night. Oh boy. Now you think staying over almost every night was great, but not for the avoidant. You're invading their space, their territory, and now they're going to be upset because you're ruining their routine, and you left a dish in the sink, and they would never do that. She showed she cared by cooking and helping around the house. We didn't live together, but we were very close. Sex came later, but felt meaningful. Still, she said there was a barrier, possibly due to her avoidant attachment style or my lack of confidence. Okay, so that's just kind of like the tip of the iceberg stuff. This is why you really want to work on yourself. This is why we have the Be a Master in Relationships playlist, the Understanding Attachment Styles playlist. That's where you guys are going to find more deeper information to really help you. Of course, the Creative Healing course is incredible and goes into a lot of different areas with a lot of depth, so you can understand this stuff. Because look, it's a lot more than just your lack of confidence. Your lack of confidence is years of you feeling neglected and unloved and not good enough. So you're trying to overcompensate by doing things like buying flowers and coming on strong here. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with bringing flowers occasionally. But when it comes on too much, if it feels too much, if it feels like your interest level's too high, it's going to overwhelm the avoidant, and then they're going to run away. All right. And she also said the barrier. Now, I also want to remind you that she was in therapy, and she could have been digging up some trauma and maybe even some abuse, and there's a lot of different types of abuse. So that could have started coming up for her, which would overwhelm her, right? It would overwhelm someone's defenses. In the summer, we traveled. She said it was the best time of her life. We rode horses in the desert. She loves horses. But after we returned, something shifted. That can happen on vacation with an avoidant. Something to consider. She became distant, partied more, drank more, and stopped therapy. She could have been partying and drinking because she didn't want to deal with what was going on in therapy. A few weeks later, we saw each other for the last time. She said she didn't feel it anymore, but also criticized me for not making the relationship official and for wanting to introduce her to my mom. I had already met her mom and stepdad and grandparents twice. Okay, so that sounds like an excuse. Okay. Yeah. She's upset because you wanted her to meet your mom, even though you met her whole family a few times? Yeah, that feels like an excuse. And they criticized you for not making the relationship official also sounds like an excuse in this situation. Didn't feel it anymore. Yeah, why? Because all the stuff you dug up in therapy, and now you fired your therapist and you're not going anymore, but you're drinking and partying, probably because you don't want to cope with the stuff you were talking about in therapy. This often happens. She found it too much when I mentioned leaving my passport at her place, since our next trip will probably be together. You see, look at that. The pressure of going on another vacation scared her. Oh my God, we might go on a vacation together. You can't leave your passport here. Imagine being that terrified of closeness and commitment that you can't even have somebody leave a little booklet at your house. Get that booklet out of here. Obviously, it's not just the booklet. It's what the booklet symbolizes, right? The passport symbolizes that I'm locked down, I'm trapped. Her words felt contradictory. She also said, sex with me felt disconnected, though I hadn't felt that way. Well, she may have been disconnecting from herself, okay? I told her that I loved her and wanted to go to therapy to work on myself. Oh, well, therapy doesn't work, so think about it. Think about this. Her mindset is therapy doesn't work. So if you tell her you're going to therapy, why would she think it's going to do anything for you? Doesn't do anything for her. Now, of course, I think therapy works. I know therapy works. But what I'm saying here is that is the kind of BS she's lying to herself about and lying to you about. She said she might regret the breakup, but that I lacked masculine energy and edge. Okay, well, honestly, I think there's a polarity to romantic relationships, or many romantic relationships. Not everybody. There tends to be a masculine and a feminine energy in a romantic relationship. This is not true for all cases, but it does happen a lot of the times. And with an avoidant woman, she likes to feel with a guy who's kind of like more masculine than her. Because if you come across as too feminine to her, she likely feels like she's the man in the relationship. Okay? So you have to be extra careful with an avoidant woman like this, that you're not, coming across like the mother, which is probably what he was giving off, those kind of vibes, too loving and warm and affectionate. And remember, that also feels uncomfortable for somebody that's never had it before. My strength, she said, was in being loving and giving. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying, is that tends to be a more feminine trait. Nurturing, like a mom. You take care of your baby. You're attentive. You're loving. You're caring. Dads kind of give, a different kind of dynamic. Some people may disagree with that, but that's my opinion, okay? After that, silence. I focused on therapy, fitness, work, and friends. After nearly 2 months, I reached out. Okay, what do you think is going to happen? Hey, I've been thinking a lot about what happened. I've been going to therapy, working on my fears. I also think about you a lot. I hope everything is okay with you. 2 days later, she said, hi, I've gone back to therapy myself because I skipped it for 2 months and I have already felt the consequences. I'd say I'm stable, but I'd probably be lying. I hope you're growing and happy with yourself. Okay, you see how this didn't really go anywhere? Like, this obviously isn't what he was trying to do here. He was trying to see her, but he didn't go that route. And look, she's already still saying, I'd tell you I'm stable, but I'd probably be lying. And she felt the consequences of not going to therapy. She may have been going out and partying and drinking to avoid all the difficult, painful memories that she had been talking about in therapy a few months before. A few hours later, I answered, yes, I am, especially since a lot is going on, and that drives me. Okay. A little bit more here. I'd also love to see you and share all this with you. Oh, no, you're not listening to us. You're not listening to what we tell you to do. I can't wait to share with how much changes I've made and that you'll want to be with me now. Doesn't work like that. You can do it. You're not going to like the results. I see this day in and day out. Guys, you can go against what we say to do on the channel, but it's your funeral. Okay? Trust me. I would never tell you to do something that I didn't do myself or wouldn't do myself. And these kind of conversations almost always go nowhere. I'd also love to see you and share all this with you, and one day if you feel the same. I'm glad you're back in therapy. I hope it helps that the hamsters calm down and everything falls into place. Give him a pat for me. Okay. He means like give the hamster a pat on the head. All right, so what do you think happened? You think they're seeing each other? Or is it silence since then? Silence. No surprise. This is what I'm trying to tell you guys. Many of you guys get anxious. You start coming up with your own little plans, your own little strategies on things that we say not to do. And this is what happens. I try to warn you, but you get anxious and you think that you know better and you don't. And I'm not saying this to be mean, but how could you? I have been obsessively trying to understand this stuff for many, many years. Okay? And so I want to see you guys successful. I want you guys to have the best opportunity to get your ex back. And the fantasies that you have in your mind, every day I get them in email coachings, or we talk about these things in the calls. You have to talk about these things with me, because if you just come up with some scheme or strategy on your own, a lot of times, even if part of it was going to work, and there are going to be things to it that are not going to work and blow up in your face. I don't know if she's seeing someone now. I'm not on social media. Her birthday is at the end of October, and I'm unsure if I should wish her a happy birthday. You asked her to get together, and she didn't even respond. Do you think it's going to go well to wish her a happy birthday? Do you think you should send somebody a message when they're ignoring you? You got to respect yourself. You can't chase after somebody. This is your anxious attachment style that you have got to be working on, okay? You're so excited to tell her about all the personal growth you've made, but then here we have you doing things that indicate you haven't grown that much, right? Because, look, she just ignored you not that long ago. You don't reach out to say happy birthday. It's going to be far more impactful if you don't reach out. And she says, wow, I can't believe he didn't reach out to me for my birthday. Now, that is going to make her wonder if she's starting to lose you, which is exactly what you want to happen in this situation. She's clearly not afraid of losing you because she's not even minding if she ignores you. So you have to understand, guys, we often have to do the exact opposite of what we want to do to reattract somebody. That's why so many of these coaches give out awful advice, okay? Handwritten letters, good reminder texts, clean slate messages. All of that is manipulative. That tells the person you're still interested in that person. You don't send somebody a clean slate message if you're not interested. That doesn't make any sense. And every one of you is terrified thinking, well, oh my God, I don't want my ex to think that I'm not interested anymore. Yeah, you do. In a way, I don't want you to go out of your way to say that now. I want them to fear it on their own. I want them to feel the consequence of their own. I don't want you to tell somebody, well, I'm not interested. And some coaches will tell you to do that, by the way. Or tell you to reach out and say, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm happy about this breakup. No, you don't have to say that either because you don't mean that. That's not authentic either. I want them to wonder and fear everything and create the story in their own mind on their own. You're respecting yourself, you're respecting them, and you're not chasing somebody who's just ignored you. I know it's scary. Believe me, I've been there. That's why I do this. I know what it's like not to reach out to somebody for their birthday when all you want to do is talk to them. But I'll tell you guys time and time again, people constantly tell me when I didn't reach out on their birthday and we started talking again, that hit them hard. That's what made them realize, oh my gosh, maybe I'm losing them. And that is what we're trying to do here. This is a breakup, okay? You handle things differently when you're in a relationship. Obviously, in a relationship, we don't want to play games with people. And this isn't a game. This is about respecting yourself, not chasing somebody who's ignored you, and not trying to force yourself into somebody's life when it's not what they want. And also not settling for less than what you want. So, guys, do the work, do the work, do the work. Replace your old habits with new ones. Instead of watching their social media, open the Creative Healing course. Instead of, looking to see if they've been online for a while, do the workbooks. Answer the questions. Do an art therapy activity. When you replace the negative things with something positive and proactive, you're going to grow, you're going to feel the changes, and you're going to feel better. So, a lot to think about. Hopefully this one's been helpful to you. And of course, if you want to get my help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. And of course, you can get my Creative Healing course and my workbooks there.